In today's video, you are going to be learning how to ride a motorcycle by yourself. I'm going to cover all the controls on how to safely operate these machines, but I did want to warn you, go and check out an MSF course, do this stuff in person, but today's video is going to be a great primer, but I think I'm going to need a little bit of help.
Hi guys.
This is Brandon, my buddy, who has been racing for, what, 24 years, 28 years? In dog years, it's like 100 years. He's been around the block for a long time. We're gonna help you guys learn everything you need to learn today about riding a motorcycle by yourself for the first time. Before we get started, folks, there's something really cool about today's video. Can you tell people what's special about this bike over here, Brandon?
It's a giveaway motorcycle.
That's right. It's a giveaway bike. Head over to yamanoob.co. This is our new beginner bike giveaway. If you missed the 3-day Ninja 400 giveaway, well, I had to do it to them. Back-to-back Ninja 400s. Got another one here for you in this cool blue and orange paint scheme. Hit the link down below. We're doing max entries for any purchase until July 28th. Make sure you don't miss it. This thing's pretty sweet, right?
I love 400s, you know me.
Oh yeah, it looks super fun. So let's get into it. Without further ado, let's talk about all the controls and how you're gonna start riding. Before you start going fast and doing some cool wheelies on your motorcycle, you got to know the controls. Brandon, please swing a leg over the machine. We'll start talking about the right-hand side of this bike over here. So, once you mount up on your motorcycle, there's gonna be several control inputs. Which one would you say is the most important?
Your brakes. Absolutely, your brakes.
And where are the brakes located?
The brakes right here. These are going to be 95% of your braking is done right here.
Yep.
On your hand.
Yep.
This is your go fast stuff, and this is your brakes. That's what you want to remember the most.
Yep.
If you get into trouble, this is where it's going to help you get out of it.
Learning how to use your brakes and being very comfortable with them is the most important thing on a motorcycle. It's a lot like a push bike, except the front brake is over here on the right instead of the left, because the left we're going to talk about in just a bit as well. As Brandon said over here, this is the go fast knob, right? Or switch as we call it. This is the throttle. This is the gas in your car, so to speak. So when you twist that, make bike go fast, right?
Make that go super fast.
Make bike go super fast. The Ninja 400 is very, very fast. It can go a lot faster than you think, and when you first start riding, you'll actually be impressed at how you feel the speed, going even 40, 50 miles per hour. You're gonna feel like you're going lightning fast. So over here, you have the foot pegs, which is pretty sweet. You need that so when you take off on the motorcycle, you get your foot up on there. But there's another little lever down here, right, Brandon?
Yeah, this is going to be the other 5% of braking that I mentioned. As you experience, you'll probably use more and more of it to come to stoplights and stuff like that. But as you're starting out, this is going to be your go-to.
So wait, Brandon, you said it's 5%. So is it when I touch this, or both calipers activating, or what's this lever? This is just the rear,
This
right?
is just the rear.
That's right. On a motorcycle, they are independent, folks. This one up here is front brake. That one back there is rear brake. And if your bike has ABS, if you squeeze this one really hard, you'll feel it kind of notching a little bit because actually ABS is pumping. If you have a bike that doesn't have ABS, which is actually pretty common, if you touch that really, really hard, rear wheel is gonna lock up and you're gonna go like that. So be careful not to do that. Over here as well on the right-hand side, we have two little buttons. We have a switch and a button. This is kind of different on motorcycles over cars. Brandon, what are these over here?
This is gonna be your, if you come from certain industries, this is gonna be your emergency stop. This is your start and stop switch, if you will. It's separate from the key. You have two ways to turn this bike on and off, if you will. And just below it, that's the ignition. That starts your motorcycle. It's like turning the key on your car.
Yep, and we will get into that in just a moment when we turn the bike on and start figuring out how to actually move it through time and space. But now we're gonna flip the bike around and look at the left-hand side of the bike, because on a motorcycle, all 4 of your limbs are doing something. So let's get into it. Looking at the left-hand side of the motorcycle, let's start up here with this other lever. Again, this is not another brake. Brandon, what's this lever over here? What's this doing?
This is gonna be your clutch lever, just like in a manual transmission car. This is your clutch right here.
And just like in a manual transmission car, this has a friction zone, which we're going to talk about later as well. So this, again, if you've driven a standard car, it scoops in and then there's like a little spot where it's going to grab and then it scoops out again. So you can adjust this with this little perch over here and it's going to work basically just the same. You can think of the clutch as stopping the party on a motorcycle, right? If you don't know what's happening and you're getting out of sorts, literally just grab this. Power is going to stop going to the engine, because what the clutch does, it engages the engine with the transmission, a little basket system on the engine over there. There's a couple other things over here on the lever, right, Brandon?
Yeah, we've got your high beams right here. This is so you can flash at all those Honda Civic drivers that are in your way. And your blinkers and your horn.
Yep.
Again, so you can honk at more Honda Civic drivers.
The cool thing about motorcycles is, although they are all a little bit different, some of these are just standard across most bikes. You know, if you know how to use the clutch, the brake, the throttle, all that sort of stuff, you can ride just about any motorcycle. Stuff like the high beam, low beam, the turn indicators. For Honda bikes, for example, they put the horn on top of the indicators, whereas most other thoughtful manufacturers put the indicators above the horn. It's supposed to work that way. Working our way down over here, we have our other foot peg, and then one of the most fun parts, the shifter, right, Brandon?
Yeah, this is gonna be your 1 down, 5 up, or if you're a more sophisticated human, 1 up, 5 down.
That's maybe a topic for another video of, you know, GP shift and going fast and all that. But for our purposes today, the gearbox on a motorcycle is first gear is down and then the rest of the gears go up, right? So we're gonna show you guys how to use that later in the video. There's one more bit I wanna point out to you guys, and that is the kickstand. So that's just like your old pedal bike when you were a kid. Little kickstand flicks down. You always want to make sure that that's down whenever you put the bike over, otherwise you're gonna have a bad time and drop the bike. Yeah. One cool thing about kickstands as well in modern motorcycles is if the bike is turned on and you try to put it in gear and the kickstand is down, it'll shut off. And if you're ever in a situation where you don't know why the bike isn't starting and it's a brand new bike, your kickstand's probably down and it's not letting you start the bike. Any other control that you want to talk about?
It's fairly straightforward like that. I mean, obviously, if you want to go left, you go left. And if you want to go right, you want to go right. But we're going to talk more about that whenever we get the bike actually moving and under power.
Yeah, so let's do that next. Now that you know all the controls, it's finally time to learn how to ride this thing. Brandon, I don't think you're quite ready just yet.
You sure?
Yeah, let's
get some gear on.
It's imperative that you wear all of your gear when you ride a motorcycle. Brandon's wearing a helmet, gloves, pants, and boots. We've skipped the jacket for today because it's pretty toasty here in Texas. I'm sure you will forgive us. Brandon, please swing a leg over the machine.
Absolutely.
All right, so the first thing you're gonna learn how to do on a bike is you're gonna sit on it like this, pull the kickstand up, and we're just gonna waddle it forward. So Brandon is gonna just slowly move this bike forward using his thighs, using his legs. And this is just to get you to feel the weight of this machine. You know, once it's under its own power, it's gonna feel very different. But we wanna, guys, make sure that you're comfortable with the machine and just waddling it back and forth. You're gonna wanna do this for about 10 minutes in the parking lot, kind of feel it out a little bit. And then you wanna make sure also, if you're on a beginner bike, you can get both feet planted on the ground, get yourself feeling nice and secure on this machine. And then we're gonna key it on, turn it on, and start learning how to ride this thing. Also, you have to put it in neutral to do this, or you have to keep the clutch pulled in. So, as we mentioned, to select neutral gear, it's gonna be between first gear and second gear. Right in between the two gears, you'll feel it as you notch it up. Just pull that clutch in, pull the shifter up a little bit, it will be in neutral. So, now we're gonna learn how to key it on and get it started and start learning how to power walk this machine.
Well, pretty straightforward, just like you would in your car. You're gonna turn the key to the on position. But remember that other button we had before, we're gonna make sure that that is also in the on position. Right after that, we verify that the bike is in neutral. You'll be able to see a big old N, and we're just gonna press this button right here. And the bike is started.
Beautiful. Now, we're gonna learn how to power walk this machine. So, Brandon, we're gonna put it in first gear. How do we do that?
Well, just like we said earlier, the clutch, so the power doesn't go to the wheel. Pull in that clutch all the way, and you're gonna press firmly downwards on the foot peg, on the shifter. On the shifter. We know what you meant. Now we're gonna work with that friction zone on the clutch that we talked about. So you're gonna power walk this bike. You're gonna waddle it just the way you did before, but now we're just gonna get a little bit on that zone. This is just to get you used to what the bike is gonna do and when. We're not gonna touch the throttle at all. This is just to get you used to what the bike is gonna be doing.
So now we're gonna walk the bike. A little bit on the friction zone. We're seeing that the bike moves a little bit more than us just waddling it normally, right, Brandon?
Yep, and if you feel out of control, just like that, the bike stopped moving.
If you start feeling a little bit out of control, just boom, pull it in, you're good to go.
Yep.
So now we're gonna waddle it back and keep doing the same thing. This is just for you to get a feel for that initial clutch engagement so that you don't stall the bike and you feel what it's like, because this is the most important control when you're first learning how to ride the bike, operating that clutch and learning how to feather the throttle, which we're about to get into next. All right, folks, you've spent time waddling, you've spent time power walking. It's now time for you to learn how to fly a little bit. We're gonna now have you guys let off the clutch fully and balance with a little bit of throttle so that you can start rolling the machine without having your finger over the clutch. Then you're gonna come to a stop by pulling the clutch back in, just like you were doing when you were waddling. So Brandon, let's give it a shot.
And just again, to reiterate, if you ever feel uncomfortable with it at all, make sure you pull the clutch back in. That's gonna stop everything. Because I can rev all day long and nothing's gonna happen as long as I don't let that out. So, you feel that point, just like you did when you were waddling, and you just fill it out. It was such little throttle. I'll do that again one more time for you guys.
Yeah, as a side note, guys, everything on a bike is smooth and minimal at this point. You should not be doing any abrupt movements with clutch or throttle or brake. Everything's nice and smooth.
Yep. So you're gonna let out, you're gonna feel that zone just like you got used to when you were waddling. Waddle with it just a little bit and add just a little bit of throttle. The clutch can stay exactly where you had it. And just add a little bit of throttle and the speed picks up all by itself. There's no need to just go and letting it out while adding a bunch of throttle. That's how you get into trouble. Just do everything slow, nice, easy. And we want you guys to get comfortable with the bike, which is why we want you to waddle with it and get used to the weight and what things are gonna happen when you do certain things.
Now we're gonna learn how to do that, but then get your feet on the pegs and get you actually rolling around with the bike a little bit. All right, folks, the next step we're gonna take is actually taking off with this machine, getting our clutch all the way out, and then getting our feet actually up on the pegs. That way you're gonna start feeling the balance of this machine in slow speeds. So Brandon's now gonna take off and do exactly that. And now what I want you guys to do is when you get to the point where you want to stop, pull the clutch all the way in and then slowly waddle and turn around and go back the other way just like you came. There's no need to do super tight U-turns. We're not quite at that skill set yet. We're just going back and forth in the parking lot, learning how it is to get our feet up on the pegs and going off with this motorcycle. He'll take off again. Always keeping those fingers over the clutch so that when you come to a stop, you pull in the clutch. Just remember that mentally. If you're stopping the motorcycle to a full stop, you have to pull the clutch all the way in. If you don't, the bike is going to stall. You also really don't need to add a lot of throttle at this point. There's really no need to get the bike up to speed. We're just feeling out how this machine is going to operate whenever you start moving it a little bit slower. Now you guys are going to want to do that for probably a good 30 minutes to an hour, just going back and forth like that. And then we're going to start learning how to actually turn the machine. Now that you know how to get your feet up on the pegs, it's time to learn how to take very slow sweeping turns. So I'm going to have Brandon come on down over here in first gear. Try to find a nice open parking lot to do this and carve a sweeping turn going the other way. Motorcycles work just like bicycles. They're two-wheel vehicles. In slow speeds like this, you kind of turn the bar in the direction you want to go. As you pick up speed on these machines, you're going to turn the bar in the opposite direction. But for the points of this demonstration, he's not doing that just yet. Now, he's going to do a right-hand turn and show you guys the same thing. Right-hand turns are a little bit more complicated for beginner riders because the throttle hand is a little bit cumbersome on that side. Beginners tend to have a better time turning left, but you need to be able to turn right as well. So you're going to just take a nice, wide, sweeping right-hand turn. And that's going to be your next step on that motorcycle. So you'll be able to go back and forth in a parking lot, waddle it, power walk it, start learning how to get your feet up on the pegs, and start doing these big, long, sweeping turns like this. You want to spend a lot of time in the parking lot, guys. If you're starting out, you don't want to go out there on the street just yet. That's why the MSF course has you doing this stuff for 2 days in the parking lot before you actually go out there on the road. So now that we know how to do very slow speed turns, I think it's time you guys learn how to shift up into second gear. All right, now that you guys know how to take some turns, it's time to learn how to shift. Show them how it's done, Brandon.
All right. And again, once you guys are comfortable with getting going and everything, you're just going to keep practicing that. You're going to start going again and keep everything low speed. There's no need to get it fast with all this stuff. As you can see, I'm right about 2,000 RPM. I'm going to pull that clutch in all the way, go all the way up to second, and start letting it out again. And continue going. Whenever you're ready to turn, you pull that clutch back in. You can even stay in second. As long as you stay moving, everything will work just fine. If you don't feel comfortable with that, you just go right back down to first gear. Everything happens with that clutch. See, I can't accelerate with that clutch still engaged. You have to let it go. So if you ever get uncomfortable, just make sure you let it go.
All right, folks, now we're gonna piece it all together. Brandon's gonna take off here in first gear, waddle a little bit, and just start pulling all those skills together. So take us away, Brandon. Waddling a little bit, getting his feet up on the gas a little bit. Kind of going a little bit of left, a little bit of a right there, still in first gear. We're just learning how to use this motorcycle in a parking lot, guys. It's nothing complicated. You just wanna make sure you know the basics before you get out there on the road. It's gonna be a really bad idea to go out there, try to, go with traffic before you really know how to operate this bike. You wanna be very comfortable doing this sort of thing. Because honestly, beginner riders a lot of times, they'll just go and crash in a slow speed parking lot situation. So you're gonna practice in those big balloon turns, maybe shift up a gear into seconds, to start really understanding how to ride this machine, operate it carefully and correctly. One thing I wanted to point out too is in slow speed maneuvers like this, it's really nice to use your rear brake. That's gonna help stabilize the motorcycle. So as you're going with this bike, as you're coming to a stop, just dab your rear foot a little bit and just start braking on the bike. That's gonna be a really effective way of stopping this machine and not having to, tuck the front or use a bunch of front brake and trying to learn how to use the throttle and front brake and coming off of one and onto the other. It's gonna be really good to be able to do that. So with all that being said, guys, let's wrap this video up. I hope you guys enjoyed this look into how to ride a motorcycle for the very first time. Now, Brandon, after you do all this stuff in the parking lot, you're ready to go rip dank nooners on the highway, right?
Not quite. We know your 600 will do it, but we want you guys to be safe out there. We wanted to make this video to keep you guys more informed, help you out a little bit. Obviously, we're not licensed MSF instructors.
No.
We just wanted to help you guys out. We're tired of getting those news stories of friends passing away from crashes that frankly shouldn't have happened. So we're trying to help not only people get into the passion that we both have for this, but we want to keep you guys safe.
Yeah, treat this as a craft, treat it as something you're going to constantly evolve into and keep learning and adapting, because we're always learning. Even Brendan and myself are always learning new things, new techniques, how to get better, how to ride better, being more situationally aware. Get a proper motorcycle like this Ninja 400, which by the way is a giveaway motorcycle. Head over to yaminu.co. Don't miss your chance if you don't have a bike to enter to win this one, because this is a perfect beginner bike. Start on something sensible, wear all your proper gear, go to an MSF class, learn the proper way to do it, and have a lifelong, beautiful motorcycling journey. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later. I got a bone to pick with you. You're out there doing all them dang wheelers on your H2s and your Groms and your Hayabusas and all that. That ain't gonna get you nowhere. You gotta take action. You gotta get yourself fixed up. You gotta find Rossi. You gotta find God. Click this video right here over on Yaminu. You keep watching yourself these videos. You're gonna get fixed. You're gonna get saved. You're gonna get fixed today.